Lewis, how are you feeling in light of the current allegations about lying and deceit?
Well, obviously this is a very difficult time, so hard for me to really say how sorry I am. And you know,
Lewis, can I just stop you there? Your pants are actually on fire.
Gareth Jones on Speed!
Hello and welcome to Gareth Jones on Speed, or as I prefer to think of it, three deaf lads talking nonsense about cars for about half an hour, interrupted by a couple of daft sketches and then a ridiculously long tune about cars at the end, sung very badly in the style of someone else. Hello, I'm Gareth Jones and these two are Richard and Zog. Say hello, Richard and Zog.
Hello. Hello.
Richard, hello mate, I haven't seen you since the season started. How are you?
Yeah, handshake and everything.
Yeah, nice to see you, man.
Handshake.
Did you enjoy the two races?
Yes, I
Got
did,
the season, the F1 season going?
Sorry, I wasn't here. It's a bit of give and take, isn't it? Because we waffled on for 2 shows about Geneva. My God, that went on. And that
conversation is still going on somewhere.
It was quite nice to be able to have a little thing pop up on my iTunes that's saying there's a new show available, and mercifully I wasn't in it, so I could sort of listen to it without going, oh no, I wish I'd shut up sometimes.
But it's nice to have that sort of surprise because
I had genuinely no idea what was coming.
It was great to hear your Geneva stuff. Just one thing I would have added, because you mentioned the Zeppelin stuff.
Yes.
If I'd been there would have been just one thing I would have added there. My favourite Zeppelin-related car fact is there's a little bit of Zeppelin in quite a lot of cars, as not many people realise.
How and why, Zog?
Really? I'll tell you. You're familiar, of course, with the ZF component, ZF gearbox and all stuff. Well, ZF, the company, was set up by Zeppelin, I believe. It's the roots of ZF go right back to the original Zeppelin company, and ZF was a spin-off of the original Zeppelin.
Brilliant.
So there you go.
Although actually, I suppose I could be wrong. I think that Maybach Zeppelin will use... Maybachs inexplicably still use a 5-speed automatic gearbox when sort of on a C-Class you can have a 7-speed. It's quite outdated, and I think it's Merc's own gearbox. Ironically, one of the few luxury cars that doesn't use a ZF gearbox. Who'd have thunk it? But that is a top fact.
Hey, I'm glad
we're
you
up
like
and
it.
running.
I've never heard that.
Away.
That's
and
lovely.
not much I can. It's not often I get to come up with something that Richard Porter doesn't know about production cars.
That is great.
And talking of facts, the facts are we have got the most unpredictable F1 season I can remember. Seriously, I can't remember the last time we started off a season with 2 races won by a team who were almost completely the back of the grid team last year, weren't they? Honda have mutated rather beautifully. They have emerged from their Honda chrysalis to become the butterfly that is Brawn.
They are the Transformers of F1.
They are Optimus Button and Pal.
Because what is interesting is that, you know, the F1 season often starts in a slightly shaken up way.
That's true.
You get some people coming through from the back.
Yeah.
But very, very quickly it shakes down into what you think of as kind of the natural order, and that particularly McLaren and Ferrari will always move to the front.
Yeah.
And I know we're only 2 races in, but you can't see them doing that anytime soon. McLaren horribly destabilised by A, having essentially quite a shonky car so far, and B, by all this stuff that's going on off the track, we're going to talk about in a bit. But so they're on the back foot. Ferrari, I mean, the car seems okay, but the tactical decisions, which used to be one of their great strengths, are all over the shop. And
Did you see that today Michael Schumacher that was deflecting, or rather Willy Webber was deflecting some blame from Schumacher, saying that he was responsible for the decision that made Massa's qualifying laps a disaster, and the decision to put Kimi on super wets at the point where no one else was. Ooh, you can just tell that there's a bit of internecine nastiness happening. This always happens with Ferrari. When it goes wrong, it's like, oh, Ferrari disaster, crisis at Ferrari, and it's starting to fall apart a bit for them.
Yeah, but that's that's one of the things that that in their most successful years they were like a tight unit. They had Brawn and Schumacher leading that, and that there was no dissent. There was nothing falling apart. Yes, you're going
I'm detecting a
because
pattern
one
here.
of the names that I've just said seems to be involved in the team that's doing rather well. But also, you know, the interesting things like that also upset the natural order and the way that you think things shake down is like Toyota at last doing quite well. I mean, starting from the pit lane in Australia. And
who'd have thought Prius technology could be doing so well, honestly?
Max must be so happy with the way things have worked out because largely as a result of the way the rules have changed, the normal order of things has been shaken up, and the smart guys, the people who've designed the good cars and come up with the good solutions, are doing well. And nobody's been able to spend their way to a fast car, but equally Toyota, who've had a rotten few years and who, at the end of last year, everybody was talking about being one of the teams that might drop out after Honda. Another manufacturer who might drop out. They're doing really well, and a lot of people are going to be breathing a sigh of relief about that.
Well, this is something I was saying to Zog the other day, that far be it for me to defend Max Mosley, but I think I'm going to now, in one sentence. This rule shake-up, led by the technical working group, has not only sort of shaken the field up, but shaken it up in such a way that you've got Leviathans like Toyota actually doing well, and your minnows, Brawn and Williams. So you've got the manufacturers and the independent teams able to compete on equal terms. He's done it. That flaming Max Mosley, he's done it.
Well, I tell you, I'm a convert to Kers. I think.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm not convinced that necessarily it is a great bit of greening of F1, but I think what it has done is that it's introduced a great element to the racecraft, and you're seeing some drivers using it as a tool to help them overtake, other drivers who have basically got slightly slower cars than the guys behind them using it to hold their position, and as a result of the fact that they don't always know whether the guy in front has got a bit more curves to come or not, it is improving the racing.
I suppose so.
You're looking unconvinced.
Well, yeah. What I like about it actually is the randomness it's introduced, because of course you've got this thing. Well, yeah, it gives them that extra shot of power. And it seems most beneficial to the people who've got cars that aren't necessarily the best sorted, because then you look at, well, the Brawn being a case in point.
Yeah, no curves, quickest car out there.
A fundamentally sorted car doesn't need to rely on it. And I'd be interesting, actually, when we see them, when they're stuck in the pack, rather than, as mostly happened, they're out at the front. Well, certainly Button's car has been out the front, and hasn't
what
really
would it be like following?
So much.
But isn't it good
when you're in the middle of a pack? You need to punch your way out of it.
But isn't it good for the sport when you have different teams coming up with different solutions, and as a result of this, it's not, we don't have everybody doing the same thing.
Yes.
Can I proffer though that we're attributing a lot of the passing and stuff to Kers?
It's only a small part, really, of what is improving the overtaking and racing season, but it is an important part.
An equally important part, in my opinion, is this adjustable front wing. Presumably, we were talking about this, they've got a servo in the front wing now, a little Futaba servo, a little joystick on your stick, which allows you to flap it around, which has enabled the cars, with the combination of this new, taller, narrower, less effective rear wing and less effective front wing, the cars to follow each other so they can get close, and then when you ping out from the disturbed air, you get your front nose wing trim changed one way or the other, and you can do something about it. So the technical working group package is working, whether it occurs, whether it's tired.
In Malaysia, before the rain, there were points when it was like a touring car race. The TV director must have been all fingers and thumbs, yelling at his vision mixer and trying to just decide which little tussle they were going to focus on next. It was amazing. I was talking about this with a mate on Monday. I said, you see, and Hamilton had that thing, and he went, and Alonso had a thing, and I went, but did you see this? And he went, I can't remember that. There was so much going on, I couldn't concentrate properly on all of it.
Right,
we were hugely confused. But
and that was only half the race.
At the time, it was, exactly. And half the race, half the points.
But here's the thing. I remember Max Mosley saying a few years ago that too much overtaking would spoil Formula One. That if you've got a glut of all this action on the track, it stops it from being special and difficult. And yet they allow these raft of changes to go through, and now look what we've got.
What you have to remember is, and you can of course always cut this bit out, is that Max Mosley is quite mad. And he does sometimes say things that are basically bollocks.
And he does also contradict himself. Give him another 6 months, not the end of the year, he'll say the exact opposite of what it was that he said.
Yes. You definitely cut this bit out, but give it a year, he'll be being spanked by communists.
Can Good morning, Martin.
Good morning, Ron.
I have a plan, Martin.
A plan, Ron?
That's right, a plan to make the FIA like us. Starting with our colour scheme. No more silver for us. From now on, our cars will be painted this colour.
That's red, Ron.
No, Martin. It's very light purple. Secondly, our name. I'm going to rename the team McLarari.
Are you sure, Ron?
Yes, Martin. And from now on, Martin, I think we should react to any allegations of bending the rules by waving our arms around a lot and being all hysterical and making such a big pompous fuss that the FIA just goes away.
I think, Ron, that in a quite sensible way you have actually gone mental.
I have a sudden desire to kiss Max Mosey's lovely arse.
Go back to your road cars, Ron.
Gareth Jones and Speed, featuring Stiff Petrol!
Whilst Zog, Richard and I are very pleased to see a British driver leading the championship, winning 2 races, I think we're equally disheartened at the tragedy that is Lewis's season so far. It's heartbreaking. First of all, heartbreaking news that he's got a car which is no quicker than an Onyx or a Minardi from 1992 or something. A Leighton House. Well, at least that was designed by Adrian Newey and some hope. It really was.
Enjoying naming retro and slightly rubbish F1
Come on, what else can we come up with while we're on it here?
Andrea Moda.
Lovely.
So Gwyn.
Yeah, that's
Top
it.
Trump. Crap F1.
Any footwork.
Footwork.
Any footwork.
I'm just going to mention Takoi Nui.
Because you like to
That's
mention...
all I've got to say.
Watch out, here comes a safety car. So poor old Lewis starts off with this hopeless car. Well, not hopeless, but a car which...
Pretty hopeless.
It's not the championship winning car he's had for the last season 2, it really isn't. And then he is caught into, now Lewis, we want you to go in here and fib your face off scenario. And he's caught out. This is the situation now. As we understand it, he was running behind Trulli in the Australian Grand Prix. Trulli went off onto the gravel. Lewis consequently overtook him and got on the radio and said, what do we do? What do we do? Should I let him through? He said yes, and he'd already done it by that point. So he'd let Trulli through again. And then, when they were called into a steward's inquiry later on, having got 4th place awarded 3rd, it is alleged that Lewis... No, actually, he did say this. We can say this. Lewis said, no, I was not told to let him through. He just overtook me. And so Trulli was stuffed with a penalty. Lewis gets awarded 3rd. And then it's discovered that on the radio, it was very clear that Lewis was instructed to allow Trulli past. And so he fibbed. And so he's stripped of any points from that round of the championship. And... McLaren are called to appear at the World Motorsport Council. Oh, that's really going to see the headmaster, isn't it? Have you heard the charges?
That's going
well,
to
bringing the
school
sport in disrepute,
well.
isn't it? I mean, the thing I don't get about it, the first thing to...
Well, this is wildly out of proportion to what was, I suppose, a stop-go penalty or something. Or maybe an inquiry afterwards where you've been knocked down the grid for the next race, and suddenly it seems to have spiralled out of control.
It has, but I think, it seems to me that it was obviously colossally stupid by whoever it was at McLaren made the conscious decision to mislead the stewards in any way. And yeah, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't lie to the guys that are responsible for safe and proper running of the race. But yeah, so as far
Why
as Lewis
not?
is
Never
concerned,
stopped Flavio Briatore or Tom Walkinshaw, did it?
Oh, well, there you go.
That team with the red cars, I can't remember their name now.
Oh, yeah.
Well, okay, well, that's a whole other... Yeah, that's a fair point. But I mean, as far as Lewis goes, if you're a driver, particularly if you're working with people who've got decades of experience in the sport, you basically do what you follow their lead.
Yeah.
I don't know the detail of what went on in that little sort of hearing, but I can well believe that he kind of deferred to the senior guy's advice on what to say. Maybe a little bit dumb of him, nothing like as dumb as it was of somebody to decide to mislead them about it. Seems to me that Lewis is genuinely upset and regretful about anything that he did in respect to that. He didn't do anything wrong on track. He was understandably incredibly wary of doing anything wrong in terms of positions on track. And so if they were a little bit careful about not sort of gaining a position and maybe letting Trulli back through and they shouldn't have done, yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking in terms of massive crimes, it's like this is at worst manslaughter.
We've seen an awful lot.
Murder,
Listen to this.
We've seen a lot
worse.
worse.
Premeditated. Yes, we have. It's not premeditated evil. I think it was just an unfortunate slip-up. And I also don't understand why part of this sort of allegations of them misleading them, the FIA said, you didn't proffer the radio pit to car recording.
It's in the public domain, isn't it? Everyone hears that.
It's an open transmission, the FIA can hear it. And then they're saying you didn't present it to us in effectively your trial. It is like being tried for manslaughter and going, well, did you possibly lead to the death of this person? And you're expected to go, well, yes, look, here's this bloodied glove, and here's this note that I wrote going, oops, probably shouldn't have said go down the cliff path here, knowing that it may have been a bit unstable. They're supposed to incriminate themselves.
Listen to the
charges.
charges.
It's the FIA's job to investigate properly, and they were negligent in not doing that.
It says here,
the FIA claims that McLaren may have broken the regulations on 5 counts that on March 29, 2009 told the stewards of the Australian Grand Prix that no instructions were given to Hamilton in car number 1 to allow Trulli in car number 9 to pass when both cars were behind the safety car, knowing this statement to be untrue. Procured its driver Hamilton, the current world champion, to support and confirm this untrue statement to the stewards. Although knowing that as a direct result of its untrue statement to the stewards, another driver and a rival team had been unfairly penalised, made no attempt to rectify the situation either by contacting the FIA or otherwise. On 2nd April 2009, as a second hearing before the stewards of the Australian Grand Prix, made no attempt to correct the untrue statement of 29th March, but on the contrary, continued to maintain that the statement was true, despite being allowed to listen to a recording of the team instructing Hamilton to let Trulli pass, and despite being given more than one opportunity to correct its false statement. And finally, on 2nd April 2009, at the second stewards' hearing, procured its driver Hamilton to continue to assert the truth of the false statement given to the stewards on 29th March, whilst knowing that what he was saying to the stewards was not true.
I just run over there while you were reading that. I just went over there and I borrowed Violet's marker pen and I've written something on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Don't read it out. I'm just going to hold it up to you.
Yeah.
And it's why they won't get a fair
We
trial.
can't read this out.
Why
right?
Lewis won't get a fair trial.
Yeah. That's probably why Lewis won't get a fair
Email in if you
trial.
want to know what I wrote on that bit of paper.
They don't like him, do they? They don't like McLaren.
They really don't like McLaren, whatever the politics behind the scenes are. McLaren are not given any kind of wriggle room that maybe other teams might be given from time to time. Rules are there to be stuck to and enforced, but you also have to be sensible in the way you enforce them.
Lewis, thanks for taking the time to talk to us today. Can I start by asking how you feel about what must have been a very difficult start to the season?
Well, yeah, obviously things haven't been going the way maybe we'd like, but the guys are working really hard on the car. And, it's early days. I like cider.
Right. You must be very disappointed, though, with the way the car's performing.
Yes, not ideal, but... everyone in the team is really focused on making things better. I love as a combine harvester, I does.
What? I'm sorry. Why are you talking like that?
Like what? All right, boy, let's go scrumping.
Like that, exactly that. You see, you're doing this weird West Country thing.
Sorry, I know what you mean. I do fancies my sister, I do, etc., etc.
No, just stop it. Stop that right now. You're just trying to become popular again with the British public by pretending to be from Somerset.
I don't know what you're talking about, my boy. The Wurzels, Jethro, massive interbreeding, so on.
Look, if you want to be Jenson, you just need to become surprisingly good again.
Oh, bloody Tonys.
And another thing, can you please ask your dad to stop trying to sell me pegs?
Stiff petrol with Gareth Jones on speed!
I used to worry about F1, I did. I used to genuinely worry that it was doomed. And I thought, no, it's saved, with Brawn and all that coming to save us. The sport is back as a sport. But there've probably been more legal palaver things in these first 2 races of the season than there was in the entire last season, including Spygate or whatever, Well,
it is a shame that, a couple of fantastic drives from Hamilton has been a bit overshadowed by the off-track stuff, of which let's say no more.
Let's not forget in Australia that he hauled what was clearly not a very good car. right of the field. And I think it's always the mark of true class. It's the kind of thing that Schumacher would have done, that Senna would have done,
absolutely.
that Prost would have done. You know, so
Faster
Alonso
than the
actually
car.
is someone who can
make a real difference. The driver make a real difference.
A dog through the field and drive it beyond what it should be capable of. And I think that's where. And I don't want to run him down, although we have plenty much in the past. But you forget that Jenson Button's actually quite good when he's given a good car. He can do it. But I think you've got the sort of the supremely talented, and then you've got the sort of almost godlike genius drivers, and I think he is supremely talented. I'm not sure he's got that godlike genius. I do think Lewis Hamilton has. He's a class act, and he will haul a car through the field, and he did.
He can get the best out of a good car. That much is certain, because he's so darn smooth. If he's got something that works well, there's very little resistance between him and the line. Well, yes.
Back in the day, I was towards Prost rather than Senna, because I quite admired the professorial approach and his incredibly smooth Sir Jackie Stewart style. And
I've got an egg on my body. I'm going to try and win the race without the egg falling off into the paddock in any way. That's what he said, wasn't it? Yeah.
That's my tea.
Have that later.
That's a Scotch egg. It's in a load of ham, and I'll be eating it later on.
Basically disgusting.
Was it just me? Doesn't like Scotch eggs? I don't know. Yes. What was I saying? Oh yes. About let's not run down Hamilton's achievement in Australia, which has been overshadowed by this unfortunate nonsense that's going on since, and also actually Jarno Trulli and the Toyota as well. Started from the pit lane and then got up to such a position. I mean, damn it, if he hadn't got up to such a position, there wouldn't have been this whole political thing that's going on now. But they both did amazing drives, and they've been overshadowed by the politics.
Whoever lost out, it was a shame.
May I draw your attention to my closing words in the show we recorded after the first race of the season, where I said almost exactly that Toyota are the real dark horses, and I think it could be their blooming season, really, because to finish where they did from starting from the pit lane, that's a great car.
They're never going to catch up to the Brawn, though, are they? They're going to. I don't think so.
Wow. They've got the technology to do simulations. We can't do testing, so they could develop their car on Brawn. Now, here's the thing: Brawn. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. Next year, Brawn, they're going to have to put KERS on the car at some point during this season, so at least they understand it for their application next season when it's compulsory. You have to have it next year.
But will they just be able to get the McLaren Mercedes KERS at that point? Will they extend the kind of deal that they've got with McLaren at the moment?
Mercedes, McLaren.
Yeah, or will they have to develop their own system? You know, would McLaren say, "Hang on, actually, you've kind of beaten us by a little bit too much of a margin this year. We don't want to give you our KERS, which is actually pretty good."
Yes. Oh, I haven't told you a little bit of gossip that I heard.
Oh,
come closer.
Well, this is a terrible bloke down the pub thing, because it's a friend of mine whose brother worked for Honda F1 as an engine engineer. And I've got all kind of quite...
I like it. Yeah, it's great.
Do you know other people can
We've all love on Gareth Jones on Speed.
Actually, can I just say, the three of us have moved
really
about a foot closer to the microphone.
If we come closer, no one else will hear.
Hang on, Violet, you're not listening to this, are you?
Plug your ears, and all the how many thousand people listen to this now? It's quite a lot, isn't it?
We get about 800 downloads a day. So what's that over an episode? 11 days.
It's a million.
It's 12 billion.
I'm not very good at maths, but yes, he was working. He's just been made redundant because they don't need an engine division to the same degree they did, because they're buying in the engine. But they were working on a new season's engine in the same way they're working on new season's chassis. And he reckoned that on the dyno, the figures they've got, the new Honda engine, which is now in a skip somewhere, was actually turning out a little bit more power than the Merc engine they've got in there.
Wow.
I mean, he might just say that because he doesn't, it's all been thrown away. But
they wouldn't have been allowed to use it because of the engine freeze, though, you see. It might have been 5 years down the line. They wouldn't be able to use it now.
But yeah, they were working on stuff that was apparently. So he reckons. Anyway, don't know. Idle tittle tattle.
Yeah, I love it.
But was the KERS that they had with that engine, did he reckon that was up to scratch?
I don't know. I'll go back and ask. Watch this space.
There you go.
Just looking at the three of us here, right? I'm average height. I'm 5'10" and 3/4, right?
That's not average height. I'd say average height is more like, I don't know, 5'8", maybe.
That's you, is it? You'd say it was, 6 foot and a half an inch?
Well, of course I'm not. I'm always going to play it down a little bit because I like being above average height.
But between us, we're not unlike the strange angle of height difference that you get with, what's his name, Jake Humphries, the BBC presenter.
He's a friend of mine. He's a very lovely man.
And David Coulthard, who's quite tall, and then little Eddie Jordan. I never noticed him as little before.
It's a camera framing nightmare. We were talking about this before we came on air. Then Jake will have to go, and we've got a special guest for this race, and it's Anthony Davidson, and the cameraman will just go, oh,
God, give up and go home.
I'm going to have to loosen off that screw on the tripod that allows him to tilt as well as pan.
And celebrity comedian Ronnie Corbett's joining us as well. Viewers in widescreen will not see this, just the top of his head.
No, it is. I noticed in Autosport they described Jake as being unnaturally tall, and it's like he's not. Well, I don't think he is. I think he's a wee bit taller than me, but he's about 6'4".
Very small
but compared to a
head.
lot of F1 drivers, he's...
Well, no, it's because they're having to shoot low. They start from a low point. They've got Frankie Dettori on the handheld camera so that it frames up nicely on Jordan and Coulthard, and then poor old Jake looks like this loaming giant there.
It's very small.
Loaming?
Loaming?
Mixing soil.
Alluvial giant. No, I'm still talking about soil.
Two people have mentioned to me recently that the relationship on screen between the two BBC F1 pundits, Eddie Jordan and David Coulthard, the chemistry isn't what it should be. They're a bit cold. Do you know of... Come on, you know Jake Humphries. Is there anything in this?
I thought. Yeah, I thought.
I don't know because Jake's been away. I was talking to him on email this week, and I just asked him. Well, actually, I just sent him an email to say well done for filling for England when it rained in Malaysia. I don't know. I'll find out. Sorry, this sounds like a terrible name drop now. I was going to say I'm supposed to.
But
be
you know
him.
him.
I do know. I'll tell you why I know him. It's actually because my girlfriend's very good friends with his wife, so I know him through that. But he's a nice man. I'll try and get some behind the scenes.
Well, I did think at the last race, I can't say it struck me first time around, but Malaysia, there were just a couple of moments when the three of them were on screen where I don't know, it just seemed like there was something odd between DC and Eddie Jordan that...
It's just I think, a big clash of egos, isn't it?
Yeah, it may be, and it may be that, well, and also, although they've both been in front of cameras plenty, neither of them have had that kind of role of being part of a presenting team. So
can I just wrap things up with it's almost like a confession.
I was about to lead. I know what you're going to say. You're going to talk about ex-presenters of F1, aren't you?
Ex-commentator James Allen, who I didn't like. I never liked him. I think I've sort of documented this on Sniff Petrol. I think I've alluded to it on the show. And I had an email from someone this week to Sniff Petrol accusing me of bullying him out of a job by someone who was clearly deranged because they emailed twice from different email addresses and tried to pretend it was different people.
Oh, really?
It was really weird.
But you recognise the IP address?
Yeah, I did, because I get a list of the IP address and it was the same person, and I emailed them back and went, James, is that you? And then they called me a rude word that I can't say. Anyway. I don't like James Allen particularly. I didn't like his commentary. Now, James Allen has a blog, and it's not a commercial thing, it's something he seems to have done off his own bat. I can't remember the address. I would freely publicise it because, and this is the hardest thing for me to say, because I didn't like the bloke, I didn't like his commentary, I thought he was very, very tedious, I didn't like his voice, found it annoying. He's writing this blog. It's very insightful and interesting.
It is good.
I can say that hand on heart. And if I knew the address, I would publicise it because fair play to the bloke. And I didn't like him. And I went to the trouble of having T-shirts made, hounding him out of F1. So I'm not saying this for any other reason except that when someone's genuinely done something well, then respect to him. I think he's not all bad.
He's a good writer, he's a good journalist. I don't think he's a particularly good commentator. That's what it is.
Maybe that's it. Maybe
I'm glad he's gone for one reason and one reason alone. He's not as easily impersonated as Jonathan Ledyard. Jonathan Ledyard, who's slightly posh and very enthusiastic about Formula One. Here, Martin.
Did he? He did. I'm quite. So far, I think Ledyard's doing all right, and I think he's only going to get better. And he's also letting Brundle talk a lot more, don't you think? Brundle's doing a lot more of the work, which is great because you always like to hear from Brundle, even though he always says "because" in a funny way. Have you noticed? Because it's really weird.
Because it's an East thing. Yeah. And I've learned something from Ledyard. It's not Fernando Alonso. Of course it isn't. It's so obvious now. He says it's Fernando Alonso. Because in Spanish, if you want a sir, it's a C with an accent under it. Alonso. If you want Alonso, it's Fernando Alonso. So I've corrected myself. I love stuff like that.
Well, he's doing all right. He's doing a fairly good job, I think, so far. But he did do a fantastic Alan Partridge moment during the Malaysian race, because there was a replay of
he said,
going off, and he went, he's gone off again.
That's a replay.
Which I was almost, but then for that brief moment, I was suddenly taken back to Murray Walker and James Hunt. And the sort of cool voice of reason correcting the slightly overexcitable one. And I thought, this is promising. This could go places. This slightly strange relationship. It's good. Anyway, I suppose what we're really saying is F1 so far has been bloody fantastic. And it's all very exciting, and we love every single bit of it.
And I'll leave you with two things. First of all, a bit of a bombshell. Did you know that, what's his name, Dave Ryan from McLaren, left McLaren today? He parted company. Hot news. He's gone. So we'll see how that plays out now. And the other bit of info is that you really should go to the GarethJones.tv website and go to the On Speed pages. If you go to the page that is allied to this particular episode, which I think is called 87, I've lost track, you'll find a link to a genius bit of Flash animation, which I didn't do.
This is superb.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Ewan Smith from Dundee, who sent me this, which is called Max's Regulation Juggling. That's all you need to know. Just come and see it, and you'll probably laugh your wheels off your hubs, like I did. You've been listening to Gareth Jones on Speed. He was Zog.
Goodbye.
He was Richard Porter.
Goodbye.
And I was Gareth Jones. See you in about 11 or 12 days for the next one. Boom.
Shakalak.
Get more info on this show at garethjones.tv. Write to the show On Speed at garethjones.tv, or subscribe for free at the iTunes Store. Gareth Jones on Speed is made by Whizbang.